When I sat down to write this week's content and I looked at the calendar for when it would be going out, I realized it was on June 30th. Not only the last day of the month, but also the last day of the first half of 2026. And so I thought it was a great time to reflect on goals and progress through the first half of the year and where the second half of the year can take you. Earlier this month, I finished up my fourth half Ironman, and I've been in a bit of a recovery and a planning for what comes next phase. And so this week was the perfect time to do this type of content because it's been a week where it's allowed me to slow down and actually reflect on the calendar instead of just be reactive to it. And so I've spent a lot of this week thinking about my goals, especially my fitness goals that I committed to back in January, and how some of them are still very much on track and some of them I had totally forgotten about. And it's a great time to reset and refocus on them because they still matter. It's just without that focus, nothing was forcing progress on them. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Daniel Steamer. I'm a multi-certified endurance sports coach specializing in running for adults. I've personally run over 130 races, including 3 marathons, 2 ultras, and now 4 half Ironman. And I'm currently getting ready for my first full Ironman at the end of this year. And on top of all that, I coach everyday adult athletes from their first race to their biggest adventures. That's what this channel is all about. So today I want to talk a little bit about why fitness goals usually fall off by spring and by midsummer, they're totally forgotten about, and how we can actually reclaim the second half of the year. This isn't about hitting some arbitrary deadline or putting more pressure on yourself to be more disciplined. This is just about creating a simple system for yourself to keep a goal visible long enough so that you can actually finish it. So the first thing we need to realize is that most goals don't get abandoned on purpose. They just get buried with everything else that's going on in your life. Life doesn't ask for permission to take over your calendar. Work gets busy. Family demands eat up more time than you expect. All sorts of other things are gonna claim time on that calendar while you're not paying attention. This means things like your morning workouts or runs get harder to justify as your week fills up. Meal prep gets pushed aside. The gear for the hobbies that you like doing just sits in the closet unused. And none of this, in my view, is a failure of willpower. It's just what happens when a goal doesn't stay in focus and other things in life start taking a higher priority. And the core problem here is really that most people set their goals for the year in January and then just kind of forget about them as the year unfolds. The whole infrastructure around setting January goals is about setting goals, but not sustaining them. It's about making commitments and resolutions at the start of the year. It's about doing kickoff programs that end around the end of January. It's resolution culture, not goal culture. There's no check-ins, no adjustments, no refining as the year unfolds. And a goal without a review system isn't a plan. It's just a wish with a starting date. So as we're reaching the end of this first half of the year, something worth sitting with is how many half years we actually get. The average adult is only going to get about 140, maybe 160, maybe if you're really lucky, 200 half years in a lifetime. And most of those half year moments pass by unnoticed. It's just another 6 months on a busy calendar. And those half-year timeframes where you're physically capable of actually doing the things you want are even more limited as we get older. I'm talking about things like doing races or hiking mountains, surfing trips, backcountry exploration, biking, you name it. Whatever it is you love is just going to get harder as you age. That's just the reality of aging. And the thing is most of us don't reflect on that reality until we start to see that window of opportunity start to close on us. And I'm not trying to be morbid here, and this isn't a call to grind every waking minute. You have to live your life. The point isn't to turn your life into an endless training camp. It's just about keeping focus on the things that matter to you so that they don't get permanently displaced by the things that just showed up on your calendar. You don't need to make every second count, but you do need to make enough of them important enough to add up to achieve the goals you want. So here's a really important aspect of this. The research around achievement is pretty consistent. The gap between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is a lot less about intention and much more about implementation. The people who have systems to help them achieve what they want to make it inevitable that they'll get there are the ones who most often succeed. The people who specify when, where, and how they're going to pursue their goals are the ones who are most likely to achieve them. Because the goal isn't the hard part. The hard part is that Tuesday morning when it's cold outside and you'd rather stay in bed than go for your run. Because when things are hard, if you don't have a system, It's just easier to default to the path of least resistance and do the easy thing. And another layer on top of this is self-monitoring. Again, the research shows people who self-reflect and monitor their progress are often more likely to achieve the things they want. And it's not because it creates more discipline, but because it both reinforces that they're making progress, but also allows them to be intelligent about how they spend their time and where they shift their energy. You can't course correct on something that you've stopped looking at. Now, this doesn't need to be complicated. You can do it just by starting with some reflection points built into your day, week, and month. So let's start with the day. At the end of each day, ask yourself 2 questions. What worked well and what didn't work well? This doesn't need to be a super deep analysis. You're not trying to list everything that went right and everything that went wrong. You're just looking for the things that you want to celebrate and the things that you want to fix. And it's just a quick and honest look. The point here is that this is not about a performance review. You're not grading your day. Instead, you're treating your day like an experiment and looking at what worked well and what didn't. The things that work well, you want to try and preserve. The things that didn't work so well, you want to try and make improvements on in the coming days. Then the next layer is to look at your week in the same retrospective manner. You're not doing a deep analysis, listing out 100 things that worked and 100 things that didn't. You're just looking at the big wins. These things I really like in my week. These things I don't like so much and I want to change. And make a note of what you want to change in next week's experiment. And the reason you're looking at this as an experiment instead of a performance review is that even when a week didn't go so well, you're still going to get useful information out of it. You're going to get information about things you want to change, or you're going to get information about things that helped you get through the week despite how it went. And then similarly, at the end of each month, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to look back at the month and look at what worked well for the month and what didn't work so well this month. And this, again, is all about looking at it like an experiment. Were there things you didn't expect that got in the way? Maybe an injury. Were there things that worked out really well? This new routine you developed for your weeks or your days. And on top of that, this monthly review is a chance to course correct. This is also a chance to bring your goals back into focus and look at, have I been paying attention to this goal over the last month, or did it maybe drift to the side? Did my goal maybe shift now that I have more information and now instead of going this direction, I want to take it slightly in a new direction? The month is a perfect chance to check in and course correct as needed. So laying this out with a more specific example, this is how it works for me. I'm currently training for a full half Ironman at the end of this year. And so when it comes to just my fitness goals, at the end of each day, I look at how my training sessions went and I make a mental note of what worked well and what didn't work so well. And when I lay out tomorrow's schedule, I try and prioritize addressing what didn't work so well while preserving what I did like. Now, at the end of the week, I do a slightly different look. I look at the volume of work I did in my training and I assess how I feel. Am I pushing things too hard? Do I feel fatigued and need to tweak the plan for next week despite what my training program says? Or do I feel actually pretty strong and recovered and I can push a little harder next week, maybe put a few extra minutes or miles of training into the week? And then at the monthly level, I do an even larger take. I look at how all of my training is feeling. From not just a fitness plan, but am I sticking to my diet plans? Am I sticking to my sleep plans? Is my training being supported by all that? Is there any major changes I want to make? Do I want to shift my focus from cycling to more swimming or vice versa? Or do I potentially have some injury signs that I want to prioritize being on top of in this next phase? The month is really a big chance to just look at how on track I am on things instead of just blindly plowing forward without any consideration. And all of this reflection and planning, which doesn't take a lot of time, but it's because it's a conscious process, it keeps me very focused on my future goal, which is to finish my first Ironman feeling strong. So wherever you are in your goals for this year, you still have 6 months to make this a really powerful year for yourself. There's enough time to build your aerobic fitness into something really strong. There's enough time to refocus on your diet and weight loss goals. There's enough time to pick up a new hobby, you name it. Whatever goals you set for yourself in January, or maybe you didn't even, and now's the time to just set some, it's time to re-examine where you want this year to go and ask yourself how much those really matter to you. And if your goals do matter to you, build a reflective system that lets you keep them in focus, even when things get busy. Build that routine that lets you look at your progress towards your goals on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis so you can make sure you're always moving towards them. What's the one thing in your fitness that actually matters to you this year that you've allowed other things to push aside? If you find this kind of content useful, please subscribe. My goal with this channel is simple: to provide everyday adults with information they need to train well and live their biggest adventures.